Have you ever found yourself wondering why people, or even entire countries, who would clearly be better off working together, so often end up stabbing each other in the back? It's this deep fundamental conflict, right? Our own self-interest versus the common good. Well, we're going to unpack all of that with one of the most famous thought experiments in history, the prisoner's dilemma. Okay, so picture this. The setup is brilliantly simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. Two partners in crime, they get nabbed. The police immediately separate them. They are totally isolated. No talking, no secret messages, nothing. The cops don't really have enough evidence for the main crime, but they've got a plan. So the police go to each prisoner one by one, and they offer them a deal. A pretty tempting one, too. They say, look, if you testify against your partner, if you rat them out, we will let you walk away totally free. Your partner, the one who stayed loyal and kept quiet, they're going to get the full 3 years in prison. But of course there's a catch. There's always a catch, right? Here's the big twist. If you both decide to testify, if you both betray each other, you don't walk free. You each get 2 years in jail. And just to make it really interesting, if you could somehow trust each other, if you both stayed silent, what we call mutual cooperation, you'd only get 1 year apiece. This little grid right here is called a payoff matrix, and it is the key to this whole puzzle. It just lays out all the possibilities, so let's follow it. If you both cooperate and stay silent, boom, 1 year each, not bad. If you testify and your partner stays quiet, you get 0 years, freedom, but they get slammed with 3. The reverse is also true. And then there's that bottom right square, you both defect, you both talk, and you both get 2 years. So let's get real. Put yourself in that cell. You can't talk to your partner, you have no idea what they're going to do. All you care about is getting the least amount of jail time for yourself. So, what's the smartest move? Let's break down the cold, hard logic of it all. Okay, so you're prisoner A, let's run the scenarios. Scenario 1, you assume your partner, prisoner B, is going to keep their mouth shut. They're going to be loyal. If that's the case, what's your best move? Well, it's to testify, right? Because testifying gets you 0 years in jail, while staying silent gets you 1. Freedom is way better than a year in the clank. Easy choice. Okay, but what about scenario 2? What if you think your partner's gonna crack? What if prisoner B testifies against you? Well, what's your best move then? It's still to testify. Think about it. If they talk and you stay silent, you're getting the maximum sentence, 3 long years. But if you both talk, you only get 2. And 2 years is definitely better than 3. Do you see what just happened there? No matter what your partner does, whether they stay loyal or they betray you, your best personal move is always to betray them. In the world of game theory, this is what's known as a dominant strategy. It's the move that gives you the best outcome for yourself, no matter what the other guy does. And this outcome, where you both logically decide to betray each other, has a very famous name: the Nash equilibrium. It's that point where neither of you can do better by changing your strategy alone. And this is where the dilemma just smacks you in the face. The most logical, rational choice for both individuals leads to a worse result for the group. I mean, if they just trusted each other, they'd only have 1 year each instead of 2. It's maddening. But wait a minute. Real life is rarely just a one-and-done decision like this, right? We have to deal with the same people over and over again. So what happens if this isn't a one-time deal? What happens when you know you're going to face this person tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that? Yeah, what if the game just keeps going? That single question changes everything. When you play this game over and over, what's called an iterated game, that cold, hard logic of immediate betrayal, well, it starts to fall apart. I mean, think about it. In a one-shot game, who cares? There's no future, no consequences. You can just betray and run. But when you have to play again tomorrow, suddenly the shadow of the future looms over you. Your reputation becomes everything. Trust is suddenly a really valuable currency. And all of a sudden, cooperation isn't just some nice, fuzzy idea. It might just be the most rational strategy you've got. Now, this isn't just some philosophical theory. People wanted to know, for real, what is the best strategy in a repeated game? And to figure it out, they ran this incredible experiment, a kind of grand tournament for computer programs. So back in the 80s, a political scientist named Robert Axelrod invited game theorists from all over to code up strategies and send them in. These computer programs would then face off against each other hundreds of times in a prisoner's dilemma tournament.
You had all sorts of strategies. Some were super complex, some were really simple, some were programmed to be permanently nasty, others were just always nice. So, in this digital battle of wits, who came out on top? You might guess it was some crazy, complex, ruthless algorithm. But nope. The winner was one of the simplest strategies submitted. It was called tit-for-tat, and its rules were just brilliantly simple. Rule 1, always start by cooperating on the first move. Rule 2, after that, just do whatever your opponent did to you in the last round. You cooperate, it cooperates. You betray it betrays you right back. That's it. When Axelrod dug into the results, he found that all the top-performing programs had 4 things in common. First, they were nice. They never started a fight, never defected first. Second, they were retaliating. They weren't pushovers. If you betrayed them, they hit back immediately. Third, they were forgiving. They didn't hold a grudge. As soon as an opponent went back to cooperating, they did too. And finally, they were non-envious. They weren't trying to beat the other guy, just to do as well as possible for themselves. So, okay, computer tournaments, game theory, why does any of this actually matter? Well, it matters because the prisoner's dilemma isn't just a quirky thought experiment. It's actually a powerful model for understanding some of the biggest and most complicated problems in our world. Take something like an arms race. 2 countries would be way better off and safer if neither spent billions on weapons. That's cooperation. But if one country starts building up its army, if it defects, the other country feels like it has no choice but to do the same thing, just to stay safe. And the result? They both spend a fortune, and now everyone is less safe than when they started. It's a classic dilemma. And you see this exact same logic in business all the time. Think about 2 big rival companies. They'd both make more profit if neither spent a ton of money on advertising. But if one of them defects and launches this massive ad blitz, the other one has to respond, right? So they both do it. And in the end, their market shares probably haven't changed much, but they've both just lit a giant pile of money on fire. But the stakes get so much higher when we apply this to the entire planet. This logic is right at the heart of the climate change crisis. Every single country on Earth benefits from a stable climate. That's the ultimate mutual cooperation. But cutting emissions has a real, immediate economic cost. So each individual country is tempted to defect, to let others do the hard work. It's a prisoner's dilemma on a global scale. And you can even see this from the global all the way down to the personal. Look at professional sports. 2 cyclists in a race are obviously better off if neither of them uses performance-enhancing drugs, but that temptation to defect, to get that massive competitive edge, it's huge. And when they both give in, that advantage is totally canceled out, and they're just left with the terrible health risks. So this dilemma is just everywhere. It forces us to ask this really deep, really tough question about who we are and how we build our world. In this constant game of strategic choices, where do you even begin? Do you start with an act of trust or an act of pure self-preservation? What's your opening move?